Hey everybody, it's Heidi Hope, and I'm going to fix my screen here. I didn't set this up ahead of time. That's a little better. It's Heidi Hope, and it's FAQ Friday. Thanks for joining me today. I have some awesome questions, so I want to dig right into them, see if we can get to as many as possible today. As always, if your question does not get answered today, please resubmit it in the weeks to come. Eventually, we get to all of them. And also, you might want to check back through our previous episodes. You can find all of our episodes on our YouTube channel, which does not have a good URL right now because I created a Heidi Hope photography channel like 5 years ago, and I don't know how to get into it. So now the new Heidi Hope photography channel that has all of these FAQ Fridays has a totally random URL. But if you search on YouTube for Heidi Hope Photography FAQ Friday, you will definitely find us. And there you can see all of the previous episodes because we answer a lot of the same questions kind of over and over again. People who maybe didn't see one when we started earlier in the year. So check back through those too someday when you're bored. You can even put your headphones in and just play through them while you're editing your photos or whatever. Okay, so awesome questions this week. Let's get started. All right, let's see who's first here. Joanne asks, Heidi, how do you handle ordering sessions? I send my clients a gallery a week after their session, and they have 1 week to submit their order, but some clients take forever in submitting their order. I don't like having to keep reminding them on their order. Any suggestions? Well, first off, Joanne, the way that we do it here is we do in-person sales appointments. So clients come in so they can see their full gallery in person. We incentivize them to order in person. And it's not just for us, it's for them because I am totally that parent who would get pictures done. And then life is so busy and you just don't have time to do it all for yourself. And it's sort of like, you know, photos are kind of a luxury item. They're sort of like a back burner item. And when you're in over your head just trying to like manage all of your day-to-day responsibilities, raising your family, getting the kids to school and sports and your own full-time career, it's like really hard to forget to remember to put some time aside for all those extra things, right? And so photos become kind of an extra. I totally get it. But what we need to do as professionals is try to create a system that makes it easy for parents to kind of have a time limit to make sure that they get their order put in. I almost feel like for us, it's like if we don't finalize that order process with them, then we're totally dropping the ball. We've got them through all the way to the end, and we need to hold their hand all the way through the ordering process. So we have in-person sales, but we do offer an optional online ordering gallery for 48 hours. So we only host it for 48 hours, not to be a pain, to make sure that orders are placed because nobody is going to value their investment in the photography if 6 months goes by and they still haven't placed an order for their pictures. They're going to be over it. So it's really just important to us for the overall customer experience so that they're thrilled with their photos, that they get them in a timely manner. And to get them in a timely manner, they have to order in a timely manner. If they did not order within those 48 hours, then we call them to follow up. And it's not being annoying. And what we do, we have policies in place so that if it's an extended period of time, they would have to pay for additional hosting of their gallery online. And just doing that, giving them some kind of a deadline, having a policy in place, make sure that they make it a priority for that short period of time. They set aside the time and they make sure that they place their order. And everybody is happier in the end with that policy because they actually get their photos. Okay, so that was a great question, and I think that I answered. Does that make sense? I think I answered all of it. All right, let's pull another one here. We have Diane, maybe? What's your favorite lens and which one do you use for cake smash sessions? Okay. I usually use the 50mm for cake smash sessions. If I'm outdoors, sometimes I would use the 85. I'd say the 85 is my favorite lens, but I definitely don't use it the most because I do a lot of studio shooting, and for studio sessions, the 50 is hands down what I use the most. I could probably run this business with only a 50mm lens and my camera body and be totally fine. So I do quite a bit of work with the 50. Great question. Let's see. Julie asks, what's your approach to handling clients who are not 100% satisfied with their images? I'm sure it doesn't happen often, but it's a tough situation to be in. Julie, I will tell you, it does not happen very often with us anymore, but it did happen to me a lot in the beginning, and I realized that this is the reason why, and with the more and more photographers that I talk to, I feel like this is kind of common among everyone. You have to have policies in place and manage expectations from the very beginning. And I can tell you of some horror stories of shoots that I left in tears, or I ended up reshooting or whatever, but it wasn't that my job that I did wasn't bad, but what the clients expected was something different. So that's where you run into a problem. You need to make sure that your portfolio is an accurate representation of what you can deliver to clients in every single session. We want to put our best work in our portfolio, obviously, but don't put something in your portfolio that you couldn't guarantee for someone to get. So this, I always use this as an example. I did a snow shoot with my daughters, and Juliana had like a big tutu on a couple years ago. It was, I don't know, a year and a half ago maybe. And before that, I did another shoot with her so maybe 5 years ago. And I love these snow shoots. And I do put them on my website because I love showing off that kind of more artsy, non-studio side of my work. But I will tell you that everyone who called in the winter wanted that shoot for their kids. And we would have to manage their expectations beforehand. And we would say, listen, to do a snow shoot like that, you can't really schedule it. You have to wait till there's snow on the ground, and then you have to wait for a day that is warm enough that kids can stand it outside. You can't put a kid outside when it's 20 degrees. You really need a little bit of warmer weather while there's snow on the ground. So this is a hard thing to coordinate in New England when the weather's always changing. So we'd say we can totally do that. The shoot itself is only about 10 minutes because that's about as long as they're going to last running around in the snow in a giant tutu. Kids are really cold, and if they're younger kids, it's even shorter period of time. Like a 2-year-old is not going to last very long out there without their winter jacket and mittens and everything that maybe isn't photogenic. So we explain all that to them, or we say, or you can have a studio session. It's an hour. It's 2 to 3 outfit changes, and usually they're like, oh, we'll just do the studio session. So they often see your work and they don't know what's involved in it. You want to make sure that what you're putting out there is an accurate representation of what you can do, and if it's not, then you would want to manage their expectations before the session. So that's what we would have to do with the snow shoot and say, well, this is what that's like. Is that really what you want? And oftentimes it wasn't what they wanted or had in mind for a session. So manage expectations. Your policies are another important point, and your contract before the session. These are all areas where you can continually reiterate your process, the timing of everything. If they thought they're going to get their pictures in 24 hours and you take 2 weeks to edit a gallery, there's nothing wrong with you taking 2 weeks, but they're going to be disappointed because in their head they thought it was 24 hours. Another thing is, in our industry, it varies from business to business. There are no standards. So if they've been to a different photographer before, they might be expecting whatever that photographer did. Now they come to you and your business might be a totally different thing. Your galleries might look totally different. But they had this idea in their head of what it's like to work with a professional photographer, and then you didn't meet those expectations, or you provided them with something that was totally different. So you want to make sure that you're just constantly communicating everything from beginning to end with the clients. Another thing that helps with this is having a pre-session planning consultation. During your pre-session, you can really talk about what the session is going to be like and what the images look like from a final gallery. You may also have a product that you could show, or like a little slideshow on your website that shows a full finished gallery. If people see a full finished gallery beforehand, they're going to think like, okay, this is kind of like what my session is going to look like when I'm all done with this photographer. If you are not proud of a full session yet, you might not be in a position where you want to be charging high-end professional prices, because people are going to be disappointed if they don't get that delivery of like pictures that wow them. You almost want to under-promise and over-deliver to wow your clients. If you got into a situation where you felt that, they were really disappointed in the images, one thing I would do is ask them, what did you, in a nice way, what did you expect out of the session? And come at it like you really want to learn, because you do. What expectations did I not meet for you as a photographer? What were you envisioning that we didn't do? And really when you actually ask them, you might be surprised by their answers. Maybe they hate the gallery because they like hate the shirt that they picked out and it has nothing to do with you, but you don't know unless you ask. And when you ask and you open that dialogue, you can find a way to make it right. If you feel that it really was your fault, you could offer to reshoot it. If it was something like a regrettable shirt choice, maybe you would just offer them like a discount off of a future session, and maybe offer to help them plan their wardrobe with them ahead of time to make sure that they chose something that they loved. So obviously it really depends on why they are dissatisfied with the images, but the best thing you can do is open that line of communication with the clients, and if nothing else, even if that relationship is lost with those clients, at least they will give you important information on how you can better your pictures and your policies in the future to make sure that that doesn't happen again. Okay, great question. That was a long-winded answer. Okay, we've got Karen. Oh, Karen, I'm glad because you have submitted this question many times. This is the third time, right? Okay, actually, let's see, blah, 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 blah. Do you use a polarizer or any other filters on your camera when shooting outside, and what do you recommend? Let's start. I'm going to go in order here. We do not use any filters anymore. We used to use a UV filter just to protect the lens, and then we kind of like, I don't know, stopped using them. We just sort of took them off. Like one was dirty, we took it off. And so yeah, we don't use any filters, but you should use a UV filter to protect your lens. We don't use a polarizer. I used to play with polarizers actually back in the day when I was kind of learning digital photography in general. So they do really cool things to the sky and the ocean and all of that. So you could certainly play with them, but we don't use them on a regular basis. 2, do you use a battery grip on your camera, and how important is that? What advantage does it have? I don't use a battery grip. I think the battery grip really does help stabilize the camera if you're using super long lenses, like especially telephotos. If you're using like the 70 to 200, can give you extra grip. But the Nikon D3S and D4 both have like a grip on the side of the camera anyways. They're just giant monstrous cameras anyways. So they're really pretty stable. And 3, do you use a spot meter in your camera when shooting outdoors to get the right skin tone? Okay, spot meter. No, I don't. I use manual exposure for the most part outdoors. When I'm shooting aperture priority, I'm just using, not spot metering, I'm using evaluative metering, where it's like evaluating the whole scene. I hope I'm using the right word there, but I use the one where it's taking in the light from the whole entire scene. And then I use exposure compensation, and I eyeball it for the skin tones. So, excuse me, if I use evaluative and it's backlit, and then I might do like overexpose it, let's say by a stop or two full stops or whatever. So, no, I don't use spot metering. Okay, sorry for the coughing. My allergies are killing me. I don't know what's up with that. All right, here we go. Christine asks, can you tell us about your modeling offerings for clients? And I know there was something in this question too about helping clients get into modeling. So, okay, for client modeling, clients do not need professional photos to get into modeling. The first thing they need to do is get accepted by an agency. So once they're accepted by the agency, then they need professional photos to create a comp card. And that's usually for kids that are 2 and above. Babies to age 2 do not need professional photos at all to get into modeling. They really they ask for snapshots, and they want to just see generally what the kid looks like. Then you can go to open casting calls. And some of them have you just submit pictures, and then they would call you in if you want them, if they wanted them to come in and possibly model. So you start with just pictures and like 8x10. So obviously as a professional you could offer to do those for families, but it's totally unnecessary. What I would recommend for families is to apply to agencies, get accepted to the agency, and then you as a studio could provide excuse me, a package that allows, the pictures for comp cards for the agencies. Agencies are often really particular about photographers that they work with. So my advice to you would be to get in touch with some of the local agencies and let them know that you provide services like that. Excuse me. I should have brought a water in here. So I think I might have to get water. Hold on. Okay, so that's my answer, I think, if you got that through the coughing. All right, Wendy asks, let's see, hold on, how much time do I have left? Oh, I've already gone over, blah. So I think Wendy's will be our last question for today. Again, if we didn't get your question, make sure to resubmit it next week. Okay, Wendy asks, before you had your oh-so-fab studio, did you do in-person sales? If so, did you ever do online sales, and how did you make the transition to in-person? Thanks, by the way, super psyched for January, but not for the weather. Wendy, I can't wait to meet you in January. The January workshop actually only has 1 seat left, I believe. March has 2 seats left. February has a handful, I think. February is not a popular month. So but we're almost sold out of all of the 2015 in-person workshops. I don't know what I'm doing after that. I've actually got some projects in the work works. So there is a chance that those will be the only 3 in-person workshops. I just don't know yet, but there is a very good chance that those 3 will be the only in-person workshops unless I do some kind of a summer workshop series, which I am just not 100% sure about yet. So if you want to come in person to the studio, go on HeidiHope.com/learning, click on the workshops link, and you'll see all of our workshops there. And you can pay your deposit now before they sell out. Okay. Anyways, Wendy will be at the January workshop, and I'm so excited to see you. I feel like I know you just from Facebook and all that good stuff. So we used to do online sales for about 2 years. Let's see if I can get through this. Excuse me. We did online sales for about 2 years using PickPick online ordering galleries. And then we switched to in-person, which I just love so much better. And I think families love it too. So even those families who came to us back then with only online, they actually love coming in for the ordering appointments now, most of them. And we have a lot of people travel to us well over an hour for their sessions from all of Massachusetts and Connecticut. And they love the service because it's just like helps them so much with making their decisions for what products they want, what packages they want, rather than seeing it online, small, watermarked. You know, it's just not as pretty. And it's a lot harder to tell what your favorites are. So in-person sales are more of a service that we provide than like sales appointments, and they don't have to order in person. So yeah, before I had the studio though, we got the studio like a year in, not even a year into the business. I opened a small studio space. So we've always had clients come to us, but I was still doing online sales for about a year into that studio space before we decided to do in-person sales. So that answers that. Okay, thank you everybody for joining us again for FAQ Friday. There were some really good questions that I didn't get to, so I really hope you come back next week, resubmit them for me. I look forward to seeing you all. Have a great weekend. Don't forget, if you are not on our newsletter list, you really should be, because we got lots of exciting announcements coming up in the next month or so with some learning opportunities that are coming up. So you can find the newsletter sign up on HeidiHope.com/learning. Thanks, everybody. Bye.